up, everybody? You are now tuned in to StarCHaser Central, a podcast about Charles Hampton music moments and everything in between. I'm Sig Braxton.
And I am Mike D. Jackson.
What's up, man? We are officially in April as of recording. Aries season is in full effect. Have you? I've been seeing you post a lot of Aries facts and different things. How are you feeling, Mr. Aries?
I'm feeling great. It's the fact that you said Aries season in full effect now. It's been in full effect. You know what I mean? You're late to the party, but welcome. We appreciate all Aries. All Aries matter.
Right, right,
March
right.
Aries over here.
Mm,
Birthday was great, by the way. Um, Wild, 35 now.
yeah,
Sheesh. You
yeah.
know. Um, it and the thing is, we took that week off, and I'm like, it felt crazy not to record, man. Like I'm used to working.
Yeah, I mean nobody knows the behind the scenes stuff and what we do here, but yeah, we have been on a roll, like a stretch. Like at March we were recording and then releasing right away. So we were pretty much working for week by week. Um, I had my dad duties last week alone. So yeah, it was weird not recording. But we're back. And so yeah, it's good to be back and being able to, you know, record and kind of stash kind of.
Agreed. Because my thing is this: I know we talked about, oh, we have all these episodes, on Tuck, and it's like that's great, but at the same time, I don't want to just release them all. And then we're like, now we have to record. And then something happens, like,
Yeah.
oh, no episode this week. Sorry, y'all. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I'm afraid what they might do to us if we do that. Uh,
we're,
um,
we're in too deep now.
yeah. It's like, you missing a week? What's up with y'all? But it's okay because we are here today and we are here to review a new Charles Hamilton tape for you guys. And we are reviewing the album, man. Hamilton Charles. Now, is it Hamilton, comma Charles, or just Hamilton Charles? I think Hamilton Charles because to separate from the Hamilton, comma Charles era.
Yeah. We're going to go with Hamilton Charles because I want to say that, like you said, there's the Hamilton, comma Charles era.
Hmm.
And I want to say there might have been a project named similar like
Hmm.
that, but with the comma in there. So we are talking about the album Hamilton Charles. If you guys don't know, this is the official referee whistle album that came out in 2016. It's crazy because when you look online, some places will say this is Charles's second studio album, which they're technically not wrong.
Hmm.
If you guys know, if you didn't know, the first album was This Perfect Life, which ended up being shelved, unfortunately. We'll speak about that when that episode comes up. But this is the official first mainstream album that came out for Charles in December 9th, 2016.
That was a winter album.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It was because hold up, three people came out during that day. It was
Yep.
Charles Hamilton, Post Malone,
Yep.
and oh, was it J. Cole?
I don't think it matters. It's the fact where I talked to Charles about this, about
Yeah.
how if you actually remember, Charles was supposed to come out like a week before. I think it says December 2nd. He's supposed to come out the week before. It
Yeah.
got pushed back, and then they had him come out the same week as Post Malone. And if you guys don't understand why that's so important, Charles and Post were on the same label. They're both on Republic, you know? And this is I want to say what that was like Beer Bong and Bentleys. That's when like
Hmm.
Post Malone was up there. This is if you guys don't understand that, this is the equivalent of when Kanye West came out with Late Registration, the same week that Rihanna came out with her first album, Music of the Sun. Kanye is up here, Rihanna was down here. Obviously, Rihanna, she's a billionaire now, so that don't matter. But it's still at
Right.
the same time, like you're setting your artist up for failure. And I didn't think that was cool.
Or if you want to take it into like even more modern times, think about anytime Big Sean tries to drop something and then either Kendrick or Drake just stomps on it.
Man, that's poor Big Sean, man. My man said, "Yo, y'all talking about the big three," and then Kendrick's like, "Shut up, Lil, shut up, stop talking."
Oh god. Oh man. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I remember that because I remember I made a post. I was like, yeah, that was the first album I listened to was Hamilton Charles. And then I had said, oh, but one of the best, I was just comparing albums as they came out. But yeah, that's what I do remember about that. Um, yeah, so it's the first album. This is something that all Star Chasers were asking for years. After This Perfect Life kind of got shelved or whatever, we thought we'd never see the day. Um, and then with all his, controversies and whatnot. But we finally got the moment, and this was the album that came of it, man.
I just remember just being like, "Wow, this is surreal. This is actually happening." And I remember saying this. I said, "Look, no matter how the album turns out, before I listen to it, the fact that he was able to do this,
Mm.
I'm forever grateful." Even though I was never one of those people that was like super heavy on the go back to this, go back to that, go back to this, go back to that. But I was like, as this album drops, yo, let him make whatever he wants. And if you guys wonder why me personally, I'm so like relaxed about it, it's like, dude, we got it. We got the album.
Yeah.
We got the album. That wasn't even supposed to happen. Like you said, that wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to have another chance. He made it to London, got the deal, got an album out. He did it. So I'm like, you know what? Props to him for that. And I hope he knows that we're all proud of him, no matter what. You know what I mean?
For sure. Um, but going back to that time when you did listen to it, do you remember how you felt after the listen?
Definitely. So I don't want to get anyone in trouble, so I won't say any names.
Mm,
It was actually on Twitter, StarCHaser that was like, "Hey, I actually had the album." It was like the night before it came out. It was like at like 9, 10 o'clock. They said, "Hey, any Star Chasers that want to listen to the album, I'm doing a listening session. Come in the room and we're going to all listen to it at the same time. Just play the album front to back."
mm.
So a bunch of us, we got in there, just sat there. He's like, "Oh, is anyone in? Is everyone in here? All right, cool." Play the album. We all listened to it, said our little comments and whatnot. I was like, "Wow." I was just in awe because I'm like, "This is real. The album's here. I'm liking the music. I'm feeling it. You know." And I was hyped. I'm like, man, I can't wait. I'm like, I'm still purchasing this. I'm still going out. I'm going to buy it. Still bought it, and I'm like, I'm digging it. But how was your first time listening to it?
Yeah, I think for me, again, it was like you kind of just like waking up that next day and just going press play, and music actually came out the speaker. You know what I'm saying? Like it was one of those things where, like, again, like you never thought that this day would come. Like, you know what I'm saying? You were happy that he was alive. You were happy that he was looking good. You know what I'm saying? As far as like he was doing like the circuit with the radio and stuff. So you felt good about that. You just, if it didn't work out, didn't work out. But I was happy that he looked okay. But to get the album too was like it was just one of those surreal moments where like we're here. We actually got it. And I listened to the album and I was like, okay, I like it. It was different from what, we were used to, but I did like the music upon first listen.
So another note, when I told you guys before, when Charles had that show in SOBs in like 2015 and whatnot,
Mhm,
that's where some of these songs were played. We heard one of the songs on there, "Be With You." He played that before. There might have been one or two other songs that like didn't make the album that were played. But
mhm.
it's just like, this is what it sounds like. I'm interested. So it's a real big moment. We built up to this. We had shows, we had promotion, we had an EP, an album. So it's like, all right, so what are we doing? Where are we going? Interesting.
I think that's a good point just to start really quick before we get into like our favorites and stuff is that the biggest difference between this run and the Interscope era, which again, I understand people who love the Interscope era. I understand. It's one of my favorites too. Probably my favorite. But what I liked about this era is they acted like they had a plan. You know what I'm saying? Let's put them in front of here. This is what we're gonna do. We got them some placement on some shows. We got, you're doing different like events or whatever. So like there was a plan in place that led to the eventual album release. Now we can argue about what happened after the album release. That's something we can all, we can dictate how we feel about that. If they should have did more, if they should have did things different, what should have made the album, what shouldn't made the album. We can do that all day long, right? But the actual from point A to point B, there did seem to be a plan in place.
Yeah, compared to like you said with Interscope, I felt like they were just doing it off hype, and that's just how the business was. Maybe hey, person has a big buzz, big hype, just put out a song and then just ride the wave.
Mhm.
Compared to now, or at least in 2016, where it's like 2015, 2016, that whole era. All right, yeah, let's get some songs in place, but at the same time, let's just build it up slowly and organically because we know what he's been through before.
Mhm.
So let's not have him burn out and just go the same way he did last time.
We're gonna go back to an old style today. We're gonna go through some of our favorites and then maybe some, some songs that we maybe didn't like or didn't, weren't feeling or whatever, and just have some general discussion along the way.
All right.
Um, so if you want to go with your favorites, let's get that started, man.
All right. So some of my favorites from the project. By the way, for me, I want to say I pretty much like every song, obviously some more than others. So
Okay.
let's say one of my favorites, I mentioned it earlier, Be With You. I'll say for Be With You, like when I first heard it at SOBs, it's like, okay, they're getting them in the club scene, the little pop scene and whatnot.
Mhm.
Number one, I have to say I'm a little upset, not by the song, but this song, when you hear it, this is this is top 40 all over it. That's literally one of the songs where it's like, okay, we want to make a club song for you, but not like girls shaking ass in the club, twerking and all that. Like, hey,
Mhm.
this can be played at any club. This can be played at the supermarket. This can be played anywhere. This is a song. I'm like, okay, we're definitely getting a music video for this. We did not get a music video for this, so a little upset about that.
Mhm.
And maybe that was in the plans; it just didn't show up. But either way, with "Be With You," it has a great vibe. Song has that feeling of a single. Has that pop radio sound, but it didn't come off like corny. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you take certain artists, it's like, okay, we want you to make a pop dancey song, and then most people can't convert that. And Charles did very well for his style and his artistic vision. So that's one of my favorites right there. Another one, I have to give a shout out to Vision for this one. Man's World. We talked about this on some previous projects where Charles had talked about some political concepts and certain things, especially about what was going on in the world when Obama was president.
Mhm.
Around this time, Trump's president, and it's a lot of negativity going on where it's like, hey, the president is talking about this and that. Certain people are riling up and they're going about things maybe not in the best way. And Charles is kind of speaking his mind on it.
Mhm.
Um, we did get a music video for this, and I'm saying that very lightly because this wasn't a normal, typical music video. This is more like, hey, we're going to get a camera crew and record you just like rapping the song along. And that was a music video, more like a performance. But that's why I say shout out to Vision because he took that video and then he added a few things to it to make it seem a little bit more of a music video. But Charles has some great bars. He does some storytelling in there. Overall, just really great message. And I've talked about it before. Like, I actually like to see Charles do certain songs like that because it doesn't come off as hokey either. It's like, hey, this is what's going on in the world, and this is how I see it. That's how Charles has always been in his songs. It's not like, oh, we got to come together and fight and unite as one. It's like, hey, this
Mhm.
it's crazy because this is how the world is. We should come together and fight, but at the same time, we all got our own issues and we got to focus on that first. Uh, I'll say my third song that I really enjoy a lot. Um, I'm not gonna use that one. We'll talk about that one later. But Real Life, a quote that Shaw says on the song Real Life.
Mhm.
Most of this album is self-loathing and damage, which is true. A lot of songs on there, they have like an emotional feel to it, like a brooding, loathing type feel. Charles talks about his emotions on the song, plain and simple, about how his real life is, maybe just stuff that he dealt with in the previous life, the deal before, this deal now. And it's like, hey, there's certain stuff that just doesn't go away. Yeah, I got a deal now, and I'm back on good terms, but at the same time, like my past issues just don't wake up and go away just because I have money again.
Mhm.
Overall, I'd say for those would be like my top three that I really appreciate on this project. How about you?
Well, before we get into that, I kind of hit on like every point I wanted to talk about, which is kind of wild. Uh, so let's kind of start with "Be With You." Um, First and foremost, again, the album sounds different, right? We had talked about this with kind of like the Black Box, how it sounded very structured and very manufactured or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, Kind of similar with Turn First Sessions, but not quite the same because there was still that Charles feel to it. But this is definitely they were definitely going for a certain vibe, and a lot of this album, he says that he's going pop, right? They want make me into a pop star. I'm this is my next direction or whatever. So on the one hand, I'm like, okay, this is the direction. This makes a lot of sense. Let's get him on this path where you could see where everybody's going towards. You know what I'm saying? Drake has been doing it for years at this point or whatever, but there's other rappers coming up the pipeline where that's where the money is right now. Let's make pop records and then let's go from there. Um, to be with you, I agree. It's very if they should have put that out as a single, is what I'm basically saying. Like
period.
they should have took that. Let's just put everything behind that and let's go with that. Because I feel like during that period of time, if you're out in the bars, you're out in the clubs, you know what I'm saying? If you're out in certain events and you hear that song, that would get people moving. To me, I think. You know what I'm saying? It had that modern disco feel to it as well. So it's like I don't I it was a missed opportunity by Republic because that was the main that was the main non-Charles Hamilton sounding song that could have been pushed as a single.
Easily, easily.
Um, but yeah, that was one of my favorites too. I think that's let's see, one, two, three. It's in the top of it's tied for like one of my top three or whatever.
All right.
Um, the next we said was which one you said next? You said Man's World.
Yep.
So you said Man's World, and one of the notes I have here is like throughout this entire album, it seems like the label may have suggested to CH what to rap about. Because
I agree with that.
if we're
I
looking at
agree
this
with that.
time
Yeah.
period, like you said, 2015, 2016, we're getting into election year. We're getting into ooh, who's going to be the president, and we find out who's going to be the president, and all this stuff's happening during this time. So we're in the Black Lives Matter situation. You know, um, all the civil unrest and all the different protests and stuff like that. I'm not saying that Charles can't rap about those things or shouldn't rap about those things. He's done it before. We had talked about, on witchcraft. Uh Larry King Live, I think is what the record's called.
It's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Masterfully done, right? We talked about it. We were like, yo, he killed that because it didn't feel forced, right? I could tell this is from a genuine place where it's like he wanted to make this record, like off rip. Where there's like 4 or 5 records on here where like that's the subject matter. And again, nothing wrong with that, but it just feels like they were like, "Yeah, you should talk about this. You should rap about this." And he probably, maybe he went into the booth and had something different. And he's like, "Yeah, but maybe rap more about this." It's like every song had to have like a verse like that. And it didn't seem to connect with like maybe the song overall. And so while I think Man's World is a good record, like it's cool, records like that, and there was so many of those, like half the album was that, and it just felt like not why and let's see, records like To Pimp a Butterfly came out the year before. It seemed like they were trying to copy and paste that. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense?
Yeah. So real quick, let me state something. Like you said, half the album, there's certain songs where it's like if you go by the name of the song
Mhm,
and then you listen to it, some of the songs like, okay, that makes sense. And other ones like, all right,
mhm,
it's I'll give you an example, right? Clowns. If you hear the hook, Charles kind of explains it, just like what there's a lot of clowns in that he's been around, a lot of clowns in his life, the music business, when it's all over, he ain't playing around, like he's still trying to do this music thing.
mhm.
When you get to the verses are fine, but it's like, what are you exactly talking about? Like, or where are the references of clowns? Because most people think about clowns like scary clowns, Doink the Clown, whatever. But it's one of those things where, like you said, the lyrics, if you're just going by lyrics, they're fine. But the verses and the hook don't really connect as much. It's like he's
Mm,
rapping and he's rapping well, but it's like I don't. I feel like I'm just like bobbing my head to it. I'm bobbing my head to it. It's like, all right, I get it, but I'm not like really connecting with the song
mhm,
as maybe as I should. And like you said, the label, they're like, okay, well, we want you to talk about this subject, and make that the whole thing.
mhm,
And Charles doesn't necessarily have a problem with it, but I think with this project, there are certain times where when you force him to do stuff like that, and he talks about using force, there's a difference between using force and being forced.
mhm.
When you're being forced into a situation back against the wall, it doesn't, it doesn't always end as well. So
Yeah, and again, I don't want to make it seem like I don't want him to rap about that stuff because I enjoy when people rap about that type of stuff. I've listened to Lupe Fiasco, I've listened to Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly, but with records like that, it doesn't always have the greatest replay value. You know what I'm saying?
correct.
Especially when you're taking away his production from the situation. Now I'm listening to someone else's production, right? And not terrible, but it's not Charles Hamilton. You feel me? There's nothing
Mhm.
to like, because like with Charles, he'll make a record like that. They'll add a sample that will make it more um palatable or make it more easy to come back to. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the records here, I would like more maybe if it was a Charles Hamilton production, like only him. Um, but as is, they're good for what they are, but I don't feel the need to go back to them, if that makes sense.
I get you. Was that was two songs. You had another song you wanted to pick out? Because there's one I wanted to talk about real quick about like how it sounds. Because uh, I'll make it real quick. So, example MVP, right?
Mhm.
I like that song. I feel like personally, they said, okay, we need a placement. You know how they did with New York Raining and
Mhm.
let's say everyone. I remember they kept talking about, hey, we're gonna have the song Everyone that's gonna be on the album that's gonna play on ESPN. They would have it play sometimes on ESPN.
I remember,
Like
yeah. Mhm.
yeah. So MVP, I remember hearing MVP. I'm like, oh, I'm cool with it. It has like a kind of dancey, funky type beat. But every time I hear the song, for some reason I think of either Madden or 2K. It sounds like whoever made the production, they're like, we need a placement on a video game soundtrack. Not video
Mhm.
game as in like Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's like something that's like an annual game that comes out every year. Because I feel like every time I hear it, literally, if you were just sitting on like, if I took a video of like Madden or 2K. I put Charles Hamilton's MVP in the background. It fits in there. It fits in there.
Yeah.
Pause. But that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're like, hey, let's make a song that would get a certain placement. And MVP, talk about like kind of like sports or do
Yeah.
something about, like that, like that's what I mean when it's like, okay, some of the songs, not if he is being forced to make a certain sound, it's like, all right, well, we'll do it like this, talk about this because we're trying to place this there, and I get it because at least, like we said, at least with Republic or Turn First, they had an idea of like, let's try this, let's try that. Compared to
Mhm.
Interscope, where it's like, get your buzz up, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned force because, like, when you were talking about real life, I wrote the exact same, bar that you did, most of this album is self-loathing, and I'm forced to have fun. When I hear that, it sounds like when I talk about how, like, it sounds like they're forcing him not forcing, but, like, asking him, "Hey, maybe rap about it, maybe rap about this." I would I wouldn't put all my chips in the basket, but I would suggest that this isn't the album that he wanted to put out. You know what I'm saying? I think this is the album these are the songs he made, and these are the songs that Republic chose. Like, yeah, this will work out, but I don't think this is the album that he actually wanted to put out. I think he wanted more of a varied subject matter. I think he wanted to rap about different things, and this is just what came out of it, right? But yeah, it just feels like, and again, I appreciate what Turn First and what Republic did, but it just feels like this was a super collaborative thing, but more 70-30. Republic Turn First had more say into it, which is probably normal in most cases, right? With people making albums. Like oh, you give me this album, it's like, we need a hit, go back and make one. Or, we need a love song, go back and make one. I understand that, but this seems more over the top to me.
Yeah, I agree. There is a fun fact though, because you were saying probably Republic were like, hey, these are the songs we're picking. And that's one of those things where if you're not a mainstream artist, like a Drake or something like that, you might have more leverage. Like
Yeah.
Drake has a bunch of hits, so they can say, you know what, Drake knows what he's doing with these hits, so we'll let him pick some of these songs out. We're still gonna pick some other ones, but we're gonna pick some
Mhm.
of them. In Charles' situation, it's like, hey, you had a deal in 2008, 2009. Now you're coming back with a new deal, and we think we should take the reins of this. So of course they're going to say, "Hey, let us pick the song. Let us go with the direction we think is best." Charles did say, actually, the year before in 2015, he had an interview with Billboard. He told him he had more than 100 songs
Mhm.
that were ready for the album, and we talked about it before with Turn First Sessions and maybe some other projects that we didn't get until later on.
Mhm.
There were so many songs we're like, okay, if this was recorded all between 2014 and 2016, it's like, man, if if Charles did have more of a say, why did they go with these exact 12 songs compared to some of the other ones? Like,
Mhm.
were they actually just not up to par? Were they actually maybe good songs, but maybe needed a better hook, or what was the case, you know?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so let me try to go through my favorites. Um, try to go so let's go Only Christina Knows. Another divisive record for some reason. Actually, I'm picking 2 very divisive records just to let you know. Only Christina Knows, it's a very slow, kind of melancholy song, but I like it, man. It's he like I said, we always talk about how he does with, like, romance, relationship, heartbreak, those type of songs, and I think it's a good record. It's very minimalistic as far as the beat goes, and piano is great in there. I think he did the piano during this album, right? I would assume he did it.
Yeah.
Um but I like it, especially after talking about, what was the record? It was her on Catholic Illuminati. I wonder how that relationship ended, or, like, what made it end it. Based off the song, it sounds like I can't tell who broke it off, you know?
Well, are you sure? Because literally in the song, Charles, well, not in her, but in Only Christina Knows,
Mm,
and in Stay There, Charles says, I left her. So we don't know exactly why he left, but
right.
I do know for the longest time in Charles's career, relationship wise, music wise, usually, hey, I know you love me and this, and that, but you need to give me more focus, more attention. And we all know Charles is like, listen,
Can't do
sorry,
that. Yeah.
music comes first. And it might be one of those type of things. Like, hey, the music come first, you come second. You know what I mean? And then some women just aren't feeling that. They're like, nah, like I need more attention. It's like, yeah, but this is his life, his craft. You know,
Yeah.
like you can't really tell a musician what to do when it comes to that type of thing. Because without that, how does he eat? How does he, how's he fend for himself?
Right. It also seems too, though, and this could be the way I listened to the song. It almost felt like he knew her or she knew him too well. Like sometimes, like if you've been in a lot of bad relationships or whatever, or like relationships that didn't work out, mainly because the partner or your spouse or whatever didn't really understand you. Maybe it sounded like she understood him too much. Like she knew exactly what he needed, and maybe he feared that, and that's why he left. Like I just out of fear, you know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't get the vibe that, like, he left on, like, super bad terms. Like, if she were to pop up now, I don't know if, like, he'd be, like, upset, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I've always liked the record. It was one of my favorites when I first heard it, and it's still one of my favorites today.
yeah.
Um, are we talking about Stay There Later, or do you wanna talk about that now?
We can talk about it now. Actually, wait. Do you have another song
I
you
do.
want to talk about?
I do.
Okay, talk about that one first, and then we'll talk about Stay There.
Okay. Uh, Ugly Supermodel is my favorite song on the album. It is. It is. Of
I forgot
all
you told me that. I forgot you told me that.
of all the songs on here, no song on here sounds like a vintage Charles Hamilton record other than the Ugly Supermodel.
I
Like,
can see that.
you could pick this up and put it somewhere else, you'd be like, "Oh, yeah, this is a regular Charles Hamilton jump," right? It's just fun. To me, it's like the 2016 version of All Alone, but instead of "I'm all alone," like, "Woe is me," this is just like, I'm, I am who I am, but it's cool. You know what I'm saying? So I love it. The record is just fun. It's very bright. That's another one you probably could have made a video off of if they had taken the time. Like a lot of bright colors, a lot of whatever. Um, but yeah, that's the most CH song on here, other than "Stay There."
I'm ready to talk about it when you are.
I f- I for, I forgot about this record. I'm gonna be honest when I listened to it. Because like I don't know, I again like this album is one of those ones where it's like it's hard to go back to like and listen front to back. But yeah, he started that record off. I was like, oh, this is the Charles Hamilton I know. Like just from the
Yeah.
jump, I was like, oh, there he is. Like this, it's almost as if like, okay, the first 10 songs, like, listen, we need these. The last two, you can do whatever you want. Oh, really? Okay, got you. And then he got to track 11, and he was like, I got some shit to get off my chest.
So that part of me was just like with the whole project before. I'm like, all right, so this is what he's doing. That's fine. I wanted to, to make sure that he's appealing to the masses as much as he
Mhm.
can. Then we got to Stay There, and I'm like, why isn't there more Stay There's? Maybe not. It doesn't have to exactly be Stay There, but like that type of like aggression and energy. I feel like a broken record. 'Cause I keep saying this like on a bunch of these episodes, but
Yeah.
seriously, it's like this is what he could have did that on like other songs, but of course management probably was like, nah, don't do that. So and they gave him his one song to do this on, and he said a lot within this like 4 minutes and change or whatever.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I said, when I got to this point, as I was listening to it, I was like, "Oh, this finally feels like a Charles Hamilton record." That's the first note I put down. Like, "Oh, this is a Charles Hamilton record." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's talking the shit. He's like you said, that tone is up, that aggression is kind of in there. Especially after an album full of like kind of the same tone, monotone voice, other than like some of the singing and stuff. Um, the shut up management bar felt very real. I'm gonna be honest. It felt very real. I was like, ooh, that, can
I
you
think
imagine
the
being Republic, bro? And just being there, it's like, all right, let's hear this next song. He seems really upset. Go check on him.
said, "Shut up, management. I'm trying to rap." I bet, I'm assuming with a lot of these songs, like these 100+ songs that he had, they're like, like you said, try to tweak it this way, try to shut up. Like he probably been wanting to say that for so long. And
Mhm.
technically that's his way of saying it without like getting in trouble, you
Mhm.
know? So it's that he mentioned the Brianna thing, and he's
Yep.
mentioned that in previous songs. But if you stop paying attention to Charles in like 2009, 2010, then you wouldn't have known all the times he's mentioned about Brianna. And he told y'all before, he told you again, he got his hit back when he was in the sack.
Mhm.
He got his hit back. Don't worry about it.
Right. He's a sick dude, bro. uh, yeah, and again, he's again mentioned about going pop, and it's like it almost like kind of rebellious way, like, yeah, I'm going pop. I need to, almost kind of like, yeah, I want to make money. I want to da 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 da. When I hear it, I'm like, is that you talking? Because the Charles Hampton I know, what I'm saying, like, I don't think he would not want to make money, but I don't think he would change the way he makes music just to do it. You know what I'm saying? So the going pop bar kind of seemed like a rebellious thing, like a sarcastic type of bar to me.
True. At the same time, though, if you remember our episode of Mogul and Street Rat, remember because we were going back and forth between
Hmm.
where's he starting at, where's it end at, because he can go back and forth between it. And it's like a
Yeah.
full circle. And and I forget if it was, I think it was Street Rat at the end of Street Rat. It's kind of like him being like, yo, like I'm not making any money. I
Hmm.
might as well go. Like he kind of had that sentiment then, and this
Yeah, that's
is
true.
him not being signed. So eh, I agree with you. Where part of it does sound like he is being sarcastic about it. At the same time, though, I do think about like stuff like that, projects like that, where it's like he's mentioned this before,
Hmm.
but this is him actually doing it. Like, no, I'm actually going pop now for real. And the fact where he said, I don't get paid to do Shade 45. I'm like, oh man, because I thought that when he did Shade 45, like the freestyle and interviews and whatnot, I'm like, it was dope, and it was getting his name out there. But the fact of learning and knowing, oh, well, he didn't get paid for that, even though he went on there a couple times, like on Sway, he went there a couple times, I think once or twice by himself, another time with Chris when he did the Third Eye Magic thing. I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, he wouldn't get paid for that. Oh, damn. So I'm like, I get why. Starving musician, is a real thing. Like, oh, I'm trying to get paid for forget everything else. If I
Yeah.
gotta go pop, we're going pop then.
Yeah, that's fair. No, and that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Like I said, I wouldn't. I'm not mad at the direction per se. I'm just mad at the follow through, I guess. Like if you're gonna say let's make him go pop, then let's make him go pop. You have a proven record of making people go pop. Like granted, Post Malone is a cheat code because he's white doing like hip hop at the time. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a cheat code. To be fair, Post is fire. Let's don't get it twisted.
Oh, he is. Oh,
But
he
it's a
definitely
cheat
is.
code. It's a cheat code. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to and you kind of strip away what made Charles. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're just basing like, oh, it's Charles Hampton. Let's just make him go pop. Like you took away the stuff that made him Charles Hampton at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But Stay There is fire. I will say that Stay There is a really good record.
It is, and I feel like you're forgetting an important part of Stay There. Come on,
What
man.
though? No,
How
go ahead.
was I'll quote a song he said before. How was parent teacher night?
I,
J. Cole, Jermaine Cole. Come on, man.
I don't think we're allowed to talk about him anymore.
Yeah, yeah, we are. We're allowed
No,
to talk.
he apologized.
This is important, man. We have to talk about it.
Okay, fine,
No,
man, fine. That was
listen,
a that
listen.
was a strange moment in time. I remember because like was that during the return to comeback? Or was that before? A little bit before.
It was before. You
Yeah.
don't have to say much about it. I'll explain it a little bit. So,
Thank you.
all right, y'all. So for those of you that didn't understand, when Charles, said what he said about J. Cole, said, he's, you know the lyric. Anyway, so at some point, people asked Charles, like, "Oh, why are you dissing him?" Revert back to 2012. This actually came off the project STH3 Entitlement, where Charles had a song called J. Cole Diss. And Charles had a whole song where he dissed J. Cole. And it didn't go over well on social media because if you guys didn't know, around this time, this is when Charles was doing the Dirty Leather Wallet sound that people did not like the quality of the music.
Hmm.
And he got bashed for it a lot. And it's just like this is out of nowhere. He's trying to get attention and whatnot. So I'm I'm glad we're bringing this up now because this is when I realized, okay, Charles has more pull than we think. Because you remember 2012, Charles is nowhere near a major label or nothing like that. So we
Hmm.
think. Somehow he came out with that project, SCH3 Entitlement. It's like within the next week, he's on MTV getting interviewed. So it's like, why how's he getting interviewed? But he got interviewed. They asked him some questions. They asked him, what's up with the J. Cole diss. I won't go into every situation or every comment about it. I'll just tell you guys, look it up for yourself. Long story short, Charles basically said, uh, J. Cole basically said something on the record he wasn't supposed to. Uh, Basically some deep shit. And Charles felt like he had to respond to it. And it's one of those things where don't say certain things on the record, you know what I mean? Especially if it's about the business or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Long story short, there's certain things that people aren't ready to talk about, and there's some supernatural conversations that were had and some that weren't supposed to be had. MTV 1981. I'll let you guys figure out the rest. Oh, speaking of 1981, I was born in '89, so it was before my time. That's 8 years away. Hamilton is 8 letters. Charles is seven. Take one from the other.
Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
All right, gotcha. All right, so one thing I will say, because people asked Charles about it, he did say in the song that the disc wasn't up to par, and he had an interview where he did, I think it was on Vlad, where he basically said, look, you know, he felt that J. Cole said something and he may have misinterpreted it, but overall he said, Cole's a dope MC, so you guys don't have to worry about Charles and J. Cole beef and whatnot, even though Charles did say that on the album, but overall it's water under the bridge, so they're cool. So
Well, it doesn't matter. J. Cole's not going to respond. He's just going to go on stage and apologize. We talked about this. We just spoke on this. He's just going to go. Hey, love yours.
Hey man, I mean, all I know is that Charles asked him. He said, "J. Cole, how was parent teacher night?" And you know, that's I'll leave it there. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's crazy how much you can forget over the course of a career. I forgot all about that, honestly.
I didn't,
I heard the bar in the song, and I was like, "Oh,"
I, I didn't forget it
and
all.
it briefly creeped back in my mind, but, like, what I say, "What was that about?" And then I just let it go.
1981, one, the biggest one. I'm not gonna lie, I love that interview. Charles, don't get upset with me. I actually love that interview. I love that shit. I say that to people sometimes they don't get it, but
I'm trying to remember, wasn't that like a multi-part it came out in multi-parts, right? Like, the different clips of the video? I remember that vividly. Yeah.
yeah. If you
Yeah.
guys are looking for it, I think it's 20 Hamel 12. It's on that YouTube channel. 20 Hamel 12. Because he talks about, coming out of jail and some of the criticisms he got from fans, the J.
Mhm,
Cole diss, working with Eminem, because that was around time of I Don't Care came out. This
mhm,
was around time also, what project was it? Ill. Ill doesn't mean classic. It was
mhm.
around that time when all that type of stuff was happening.
Um, okay. Now tell me some of the records that maybe if you had to get rid of some or you weren't feeling, what would they be?
So there's only one I get rid of. It is one of your favorites, Ugly Supermodel.
Mhm,
I just don't feel it. There's nothing wrong with the song, but I think because of how the project was structured, where
mhm.
everything was like a certain tone, I
Yeah,
just feel like Ugly Supermodel doesn't fit on there. I do know that they said it's a technically an iTunes like it was an iTunes like extra,
kinda like a bonus.
yeah, a bonus is like a bonus track. So I'm
Mm,
like, I get it. And of course that's what bonus tracks do. Like they're not always going to fit the project, but overall,
mhm.
my it doesn't really fit on there. Um, Other than that, it's not like I dislike anything else. I would say, like I said with clowns, like I said, I don't hate the song. It's just I feel like the connection isn't really there. Like the beat's cool, the hook's cool,
Mhm,
verses are okay. It's just one of the things like when you put it all together, I'm kind of just like, uh what did I listen to? 'Cause I feel like
right.
with a lot of these songs on the project, it's songs that are done well, and then like you said, management said, hey, go in this direction, and they went in that direction, and then I feel like they're like, well, he went in that direction, but what went wrong? It's like when you just tell someone, oh, just make the song about this, and they just make it about that. That's it.
Mhm,
If there's no chemistry or there's no like magic, it, it'll kind of sound like that. Like it's only what you put on. It's only what you put there, what you put on it. You know,
mhm.
Cabot put it, pause, and he did. No, but that's from the interview too. I'm sorry. But no, seriously, it's just one of those things where like certain songs, it's like, yeah, he rapped on there, and that's it. And it sounds crazy because I think it's the same criticism that Charles would have before. Okay, when he freestyle on songs right in his head, it's like, okay, it's just not connecting. All right, well, I'm gonna write and I'm gonna do their production. It's not connecting, and people are just like, so what is it?
Mhm,
What's the? And you have to take a little bit of like his creativity and also some type of direction, and you put it all together. You can't just go one way or go the other way. You gotta do a little bit of all of it. But I think the only song I really like wouldn't don't really feel like that is Ugly Supermodel. Everything else is passable or something I really like. But Clowns is like the only other one where I'm like, it's a okay song. Like I don't always listen to it every time I listen to the project.
got it. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I clowns is definitely on my list of just mm-mm, it's not for me. Correct. I just a lot of it is the production, but it's also Charles is eh, I feel like they just had a hand in like everything Charles did, right? As far as like not only the production, not only his subject matter, but also the way that he would rap and flow. Because it didn't seem like he varied it up too much. It was a lot of multi-rhyme in the same bar, like, again, not this is the Charles rap, this is what's called but it's very like, "Ooh, Cat in the Hat," like, you know what I'm saying? Very, like, in the middle, like, bar, 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 like, 3 times rapping "at," and then same thing on the second line, and it's just like, yeah, he can do that, and he does it well, but it's like maybe let him do something different on different songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and it felt like on certain tracks he was kind of fighting the beat a little bit too, where it's like he's rapping his way to get to to make it land on the right part of the beat or whatever. So beats songs like Correct, songs like Clowns, um, and Make Yourself Over. I think those are my three where I'm just like, eh, I don't. I'm cool. I would be cool if we didn't have those on here. I could do without them.
Uh, there's a good point that Charles makes on "Make Yourself Over." 'Cause that's like one of my couple favorite songs on
Okay.
there. 'Cause in that song, he's talking about um, it's not your talent, man. It's about balance. You know,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where what he went through being on the label and not working out, getting on the label, another label, and then people just not figuring it out, being like, okay, it's not your talent. You are talented. You know how to rap. You know how to play instruments and whatnot. But
Mhm.
it's not always about talent. It's about having a balance. You got to have somewhat of a personality, somewhat of a chemistry with whoever you're making music with. So, and I think this song actually articulates that well in a good way and bad way, where he talks about it well in the song. And like you said, some of these songs, it's like it doesn't come off as well because I think in one of the bars it says, he doesn't do anything else but music. Life is kind of boring as shit. And it's like, I get you. And that might be one of the things since he only, does music, they probably asked him, okay, well, what do you do outside of music? Let's talk about some of that type of stuff. It's like, I really don't, you know?
Right.
And the general public could be like, this guy's boring. If he's boring, why want to listen to his music? That's boring too.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly what it is. You just have to be able to pull that creativity out of people when, it's not there. If the beat doesn't inspire you, then okay, we have to find another way to get you inspired.
I did have 2 questions before we kinda rate the tape.
Okay.
The first one is, mm, mm, actually, it's probably just one, and it'll kinda lead into the other.
Okay.
So the Black Box came out before, the album, and then on the intro track, they find the Black Box, right?
hmm
Are those did it really need to be said in the song? Like, in the tape, are they really connected? Like, the tape doesn't tell a story, right?
Here's the problem with that.
Okay.
So
I'm listening.
it does so it does tell a story, but I believe it wasn't told well.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Where like, let's say like when you're in school and it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this, and that, and then your teacher's like, oh, well, I don't get it, and they're like, oh, I explained it like this. It's like, yeah, well, you didn't segue well enough. And
Mhm.
another issue, Black Box came out a year before
Okay.
Hamilton Charles. Like it came out like the year before, December of 2015.
Yeah, so a
Hamilton
year.
Charles comes out 2016 of December, and normally you have an EP that comes out, the album should be coming out some months away, not a
Right.
whole year away. This is what I read on Wikipedia. So Charles, if this is wrong, please correct us in this. So Hamilton Charles is a concept album. It is a continuation of Hamilton's concept EP, The Black Box, that revolves around taking a plane trip around Hamilton's mind, and his song are a part of the recordings of the flight recorder, which two men later discover after the plane wrecks. So it's one of those things where, you know, at some point, the Black Box is okay. These are certain songs that he has going out talking about his life and his thoughts. The plane crashes, and then okay, they found the Black Box. Okay, this is everything that he said within that time period, which
Mm.
is true. I think where the disconnect happens is, like we said, we listen to these songs. Like first song is "Oh Well," where they do that. Okay, oh fuck it, oh well, everything's crossing over because Charles is like, oh, you know what? I'm going pop now. You hear clowns. Okay, I don't get it. Everyone, everyone sounds like real quick. Everyone sounds like they wanted to make loser, but in a more positive pop way. You know what I mean? Because
Okay, I can see that.
it sounds like loser to me, but like they're like, don't call yourself a loser. Like everyone's a winner. Yeah, correct. Like you said, not everyone feels that song as much. It's more like a political vibe.
Mhm.
Be with you, pop song. So it's like overall, it's like okay, it's talking about the Black Box's mind, his thoughts, and everything of him. I guess talking about going pop or about to go pop before the plane crashes. And it's like okay. if I didn't read that to you, you probably wouldn't have gotten that. And I feel like just listen to the project, you don't understand that. It just sounds like a bunch of random songs, to be honest. To me, I'm like, they told him to make a pop song, make two political songs, make some type of emotional song, a realistic song. Like that's I think where the disconnect happens, where they did that, but they didn't tell the story well enough.
Yeah, I wish I knew that, it's supposed to be like, "Oh, this a plane crash," or we were supposed to be on a plane, or Charles was on a plane. Like, even the EP didn't kinda, you know what I'm saying? It didn't really tell us, like, even I'm not saying you gotta have, like, a skit, but, like, even, like, on the intro, like, the intro of a song, like, on the first song, like, kinda make it be like, "Oh, I'm on a plane," or, like, "The plane's gonna crash," or, "These are my final thoughts." Like, you could even done that, like, on the end of the EP, like, "Yo, these are my final thoughts. I hope they find the black box." Boom. Then it goes into the album, "Dudes found the black box." Cool, I'm good. Now I understand where you're taking me. But it's like, it just feels like he wanted to tell a story. There was supposed to be a story being told, but I wasn't given. It was like asking me to do a book report on a book, but never giving me the book to read the book. That's what it felt like. So
I
I'm just
see
like,
it.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I get it. Or if they told you to do a book report without giving you the book, and all you had was Spark Notes, but the Spark Notes on there, I know I'm showing our age right now, but if the Spark Notes on there, I think it's called something else now, but the Spark Notes on there were like terrible, and you're like, all right, well, this is what you're giving me. This is what I'm going by. So and like I said, overall, I don't blame Charles for this. He just went in their direction,
Mhm.
and like that's what we got.
Yeah.
So I blame more of management just not really understanding him well enough.
Mhm. Yeah. First off, Spark Notes got us through a lot. Let's get that out the way.
Oh yeah, shout out to Spark Notes.
Yeah, Smart Nose got us through in a pinch where it's like, "Ooh, I don't feel like reading this. Let me go and look what they got up on here." But I agree, like, the management didn't seem like they trusted his ability to tell a story, but, like, all you had to do is go back to any of the stuff before this, any of his concept albums before, and be like, "No, I think if we just let him do what he wants, he'll be fine." We can, like, edit and trim here and there, but, like, let's just trust his judgment. And I feel like that's where the disconnect ended up being or whatever. Um, but yeah, man, we just reviewed Hamilton Charles. I would like you to give us your rating, man. Give us any pros, cons of the album, and let us know what you're rating it, man.
Before I give my rating, something one thing I do want to talk about
Mhm.
is around this time when Hamilton Charles did come out, there was also a 50-minute documentary titled "Let It Play Fault Lines." I'm not sure if it's still online now because
Facebook.
it wasn't on YouTube. It was like on Red Bull TV. If it's somewhere online, y'all, please look it up because that documentary came out around the time the album came out. Powerful documentary.
It's on Facebook. I found it. I found it and I saved it 'cause I wanted us to be able to like review that one day.
Okay, dope.
Yep.
Yeah, if you guys have Facebook, please look that up because it is very important because it's one of those things that tells about Charles's career, especially at that point where it's like, hey, I'm on a label, but this is what I went through before. This is
Yep.
what I'm kind of going through now, So definitely please check that out. So when it comes to this actual this album, like I said, first listening to it, I was like, this is nice. This is dope. We finally got the album. I'm happy. Listening to it these days, I do remember there are some rumblings in the StarCHaser group on Facebook back then,
Mhm.
where there's some people like, man, I'm not really liking it. And there's this whole hubbub about y'all, especially the people that cried about him not being in the studio,
Mhm.
getting a deal. He got a deal, then you're crying about it. I mean, I think where the big disconnect was, we talked about it before. You had some '08 2010 fans over here. Oh, make your music like that. Then you had some people that, they got into like 2012 to 2013, 14 maybe
Mhm.
ish before he got signed, before he went to London. And they want the music like this. Charles was like, he didn't really do one for this side or that side. He had to do a professional thing. So it really just certain people on both sides didn't like it. For me though, listening to it for what he did, I enjoyed it. And I'm a little like disappointed because when we talk about favorite projects, I don't think this project comes up enough. Like it doesn't really come up as much. You still have people say Pink Live Lamp, of course.
Mhm,
You have Awkward, L Word, stuff like that. Even some of the later projects we've reviewed on this show already.
mhm.
But I don't think a lot of people talk about Hamilton Charles enough. So overall, I'm actually going to give it a tails. I'm gonna
Okay.
give it a tails rating. I think overall, like I said, I still like the music on here. Like there's other projects I do believe that I like a little bit more, but for what Charles did at this time period, going with their direction, the songs aren't bad. The songs aren't bad. Structurally, they're not bad. And there's some underrated songs on here. I think that some people they glossed over it. It wasn't what they were expecting, so they just, didn't appreciate it as much. But I think overall for me, it's an underrated project. Even though it's the album and it should be looked at highly, it's not. And I think it deserves a little bit more love. So I'll say the Tails rating is a little underrated, But overall, I like it. I still like the project.
Um,
Here we go.
why you say that though? Why you say it like that? And the good thing about this pod is that it's two of us, so it's not like one person just being like, oh, it's great. We both have our own opinions, right? I think, and this one we kind of disagree in the sense that I don't think you're right in one sense that 08 to 2010, 2012, 2014, neither of them got what they really wanted, right?
Yeah,
You got the people that wanted maybe the grittier, dirtier sound from 2012, 2014 with with the subject matter that was playing over here. And you got people that, from 08, 010 that was kind of studio-esque, still had that Charles Hamilton feel to it, but it felt more like quote unquote written, but I don't think it ever was, to be perfectly honest with you. Um, but what they got instead is a professional studio album, which fine, that part is good for them. But the Charles Hamilton aura around it wasn't there. And so it's like nobody really got what they wanted, what they expected, I'll say. They got the album, but they didn't get what they expected. So for me, the album is just okay. You know what I'm saying? Like again, half of it is that I battle between the part where it's like it's a Charles Hamilton album, but not a Charles Hamilton album. You know what I'm saying? I miss that aura. I miss him being able to kind of rap how he wants. I miss him, the production that he does. Even if you didn't, let him do the full album that way. Just some songs, like 3 or 4 songs. Let him do that, show that creativity that he has. Um, I I wouldn't have it the album in like my top 30, 40 projects, top 50 maybe. I don't know if I would have any of the songs in my top 100. Like, it doesn't reach that pantheon of, like, great Charles Hamilton records for me. That's just me personally. And I
yeah.
think a lot of that has to do with, especially today, is the fact that we went and we listened to Turn First Sessions. And that's why I kinda asked you, pre-production, like, kinda give me the timeline. Can you remind me again when Turn First Sessions came out?
It was after. The thing is, Turn for Sessions was definitely recorded within that like 2014, 15 era when he
Right,
had those 100 plus songs. Those songs were definitely part of that 100 plus pack or whatever you want to call it. We didn't get it till like maybe 2016 or 17 or
right.
something like that, after he was already gone from
Mhm,
Republic. But if we're going by a certain timeline, let's just say Turn First Sessions was beginning,
mhm.
then somewhere in there, next after would be actually Black Box that got recorded and released in 2015 in December, and then the year after, 2016 December, the album Hamilton
Right.
Charles was released. But somewhere within that timeline, all those songs were pretty much released.
I'm thinking if I'm looking at that, right, it's like I look at Turn for Sessions today after, when we did the episode, I was like, well, damn, I would have put some of these on there. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were doing that episode, I was just thinking like, what could I have taken off of Hamilton Charles and put, from Turn for Session and put on there? And I would have been like, oh, this would have been a more not even cohesive, but just like it would have been a more enjoyable full listen or whatever. So with that being said, for me, I'm gonna give it the Mecha Sonic 2 because to me, it's not as like I still want people to listen to it because it's an important piece of Charles Hamilton music or whatever. But now that I've listened to Turn for Sessions, it's been done better. You know what I'm saying? Like though that pack should have been the album to me. especially since we talked about how Turn for Sessions felt like a collection of songs. When I look back and I'm like, Hamilton Charles was kind of a collection of songs. So if you're
Yeah,
gonna give me a collection of songs, give me Turn for Sessions.
I agree with that because I definitely see there's more replay value in Turn First Sessions, and at least with that, I don't know how many songs that Charles actually had for that being a project or not, or if it was just a thing of like, hey, I actually got to take these home with me. Let me just put these out. And like I said, at least with that, he might have the option to be like, hey, I'm picking this, and this, and then I'm
Mhm.
putting that together, put it out, put it with the instrumentals, boom. Compared to Hamilton Charles, where it's like, we're picking these for you, and you might have a say in one or two of them, but overall, we're picking the track listing and how it flows and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I definitely understand that, and I agree with that. I will say this: I think overall for any Star Chasers or even Charles listening, because there's a lot of people on both sides wondering, okay, there's Charles maybe wondering, okay, well, what do you guys want? There's
Mhm.
some Star Chasers, well, what do you guys want? What does Charles want? And I think overall, not to sound cheesy, but it has to be a holy matrimony of, okay, you have to find that sweet spot of making the songs that you actually like to make the songs about, but
Mhm.
also making it in a way that doesn't have to be mainstream, but making it for your core fan base, your audience. You have to know who your actual audience is. The people that say, "Oh yeah, I used to listen to Charles Hamilton back in like '08," that's not the core fan base. If you're not listening currently right now, you're not the core fan base.
Right.
You have to find out who's actually listening, who's actually liking the songs, because you just like listening to them now and be like, "Oh yeah, that song's cool." Technically, you're not the core fan base either, because you can't tell me what you like about the song. You're just like, "Oh, it's just a good song." No, you tell me what you like about the song. Tell me what you like about the music. What are the quotes? What are the quotables? Like,
Right.
that's the biggest thing about Charles. He has quotables. What do you like most about it? You know. So overall, I think like for anyone asking, you have to find that sweet spot of what people like to hear, which what likes to be written about or rapped about, put it together in a way that could kind of be a good compromise, but at the same time, that's up for everyone else to decide. Me and you're going to have a different answer. Charles is going to have a different answer.
Mhm.
Someone over there is going to have a different answer, But I do get that. I agree with you. I do like Turn First Sessions more, and it was done better than Hamilton Charles, but you know to each their own.
Yeah, man. Like you said, it's in everything's ends up being subjective, right? Like what you like is what you like, what I like was what I like at the same time. You know, let people like what they like. Don't just come around just to say, "Oh, I wish you would do this." Well, it's like, well, if somebody likes what he's doing, so just let that be. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to always bring your opinions to the table. Some people just don't care. So
True.
just stop doing that. Uh, but let us. We do want your opinion because we do want to hear what you have to say about Hamilton Charles, man. How did y'all feel about it? What would you rate it? What were your favorite songs? Um, Compared to like Turn First Sessions, what how do you feel about that? And what would you have liked to seen on the album? Let us know in the comments, man. Be sure to subscribe to Star Chaser Central on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter, Star CH Central. You can also follow us on individual pages. I'm at Stick Around 54 on Instagram and Twitter, STIK around 54. Mike, where can they find you, buddy?
On Instagram, the Mike Jackson, Mike Jackson. On Twitter, Mike D Jackson, Mike D Jackson, DEE, Mike D Jackson. That's one D, two E's. Make sure you guys are following Charles Hamilton on Twitter at Charles Hamilton. Also, make sure you're checking out the blog at enterthehamilton.blogspot.com. Also make sure you're following him on YouTube and you're keeping up to date with him when he's doing his lives and everything. The talented Mr. Hamilton, like I said earlier, shout out to Hamill Vision for some of the videos he's put out, and also like I said earlier for 20 Hamill 12, because if you guys want to see any of those interviews and whatnot, you know, have some stuff you can look up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but like I said, we appreciate everybody following us. Be sure to let us know what you would like us to review. We have stuff in the can, like we just talked about earlier at the beginning of the pod, but we also, we're looking to. There's a lot of tapes, man. I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of tapes, so like any suggestions would be great. Especially stuff like maybe a little bit later stuff, to kind of help us diversify our portfolio. Because if not, we'll probably go to certain stuff that we like. But we like to try something new just to be, nothing wrong with trying something new, right, Mike?
I agree. Totally.
Yeah. Would you like to give any words to the people before we bounce?
Stay there. Stay put. Stay the fuck there. And make sure you stay subscribed.
That is terrible.
Well, you want me to tell them go? Actually, you know what? Listen to the stick. Leave. Unsubscribe. Go. Just shoo. Get out. Get out. Get out like the movie.
You
Get
know
out.
why I said that. That shit was corny as hell. Uh, but we are logging out of the Star Chase Essential, man, where we always encourage you to follow your dreams.
And reach for the stars.